For this bag, we are basically going to make 2 circles and then sew them together and then line it. So I already made 1 circle. I'll show you how to make this, and you will want to make 2 of them. So I'm starting with an H or 5.0 millimeter hook. And I'm going to start with a magic ring, chain up 2, and this chain 2 won't count as a stitch. And we are going to make 12 double crochets into this ring here. Once you have the 12 stitches, pull your tail end tight to close up the ring, and we will join to the first double crochet of the round. For round 2, chain up 2. And now in this round, we are going to make bead stitches. So to do a bead stitch, we are going to double crochet into this first stitch. Again, those chain 2s won't count as a stitch. So double crochet. And then we're going to make like a puff stitch on this double crochet that we just made. So turn your work 90 degrees, yarn over, insert your hook here where your double crochet was, pull up a loop, and we want to pull up a loop 4 times total. So that was 1, 2, 3, 4. And here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 loops total on here. Yarn over and pull through all of the loops. When you're pulling up the loops, be sure to have a loose tension, just so you have an easier time pulling that loop in through all of them. And then we're going to chain 1. And we're going to do the same thing all the way around. So here's my next stitch. Start with a double crochet, and then I'm going to do a puff stitch on that double crochet post. So yarn over, pull up a loop 4 times, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, yarn over, pull through all of the loops, and then chain 1. So we're going to keep doing that all the way around. I'll show you a couple more times the bead stitch. So we are going to start with a double crochet, and then make a puff stitch on the side of the double crochet that we just did. And again, be sure to try to loosen your tension a bit, and then chain 1. So this is how it should be looking. So double crochet, and then a puff stitch on the side, which is pulling up 4 loops total. So when you pull up, you can pull up a little bit. Make sure all of those loops are even and not very tight, and then pull through and chain 1. So go ahead and make this bead stitch in every stitch around, and then I'll meet you back here for round 3. So once we get to the end of round 2, this is what it should be looking like. You should have done a bead stitch, a chain 1, and now we are going to join to this first stitch here, which is the double crochet that's part of the bead stitch, because again, that chain 2 will not count as a stitch. So join there, chain 2, and double crochet into that same space. So in this round, we will be double crocheting all the way around. For each bead stitch, there will be 3 stitches. So that first stitch is in that double crochet part of the bead stitch, and then the second stitch is the puff stitch part of the bead stitch, and then there's a chain 1. So double crochet, puff, and then chain 1. So for each bead stitch, there will be 3 stitches. So go ahead and just double crochet one in each stitches. It can be hard to see some of the stitches, especially that double crochet, because it's kind of hiding. But if you look at the top, if you look at your work like this, if you look at the top, then you can see all the stitches a little better so you don't miss any of them. So go ahead and just double crochet all the way around, and then I will meet you back here for round 4. So here we are at the end of round 3. Go ahead and join to that first double crochet of the round. So this is how your circle should be looking. If it's curling up slightly, just stretch it out a little bit. It should be laying flat. If it's super like roughly, or it's really curling up, then your yarn might be too thick or your tension might be too tight. So just be mindful that if it's curling up way too much at this point, then you may need to adjust either your hook size or your yarn size. So this is a thinner yarn. I think this yarn is categorized as a weight 4, but it's really more of a weight 3, and I'm using an H hook, and I am a pretty loose crocheter. So for round 4, chain up 2, we are going to do our bead stitches again. Same exact thing, except in this row we will be skipping stitches while we do the bead stitches. So bead stitch in that very first stitch, so double crochet, and then work into the side, chain 1, and then instead of making a bead stitch in every single stitch around, we will be skipping stitches. So skip this next stitch and then work into the next. And then chain 1. So that is what we're doing for row 4. Bead stitch in every other stitch. So skip 1 and then bead stitch. And then chain 1. So go ahead and make a bead stitch in every other stitch around for round 4, and I'll meet you back at the end of round 4. So here I am at the end of round 4. I just did a bead stitch, a chain 1, and I do have one more space left. We are going to skip that and then join to the first bead stitch where that double crochet post is. So now you should be seeing some sort of a pattern. We are basically doing bead stitches every other round. As you can see, it's curling up slightly, so I'm just going to stretch it out a little bit, and it should lay flat. If I stretch it out and it's not laying flat, again, then I need to adjust my tension, my hook, or maybe just use a different yarn. If you are experimenting with other yarns that other than the yarns I have suggested to use for this bag. So for round 5, we are just going to double crochet all the way around again. So chain up 2 and just double crochet all the way around. So again, a bead stitch will have essentially 3 stitches, that double crochet, that puff, and that chain 1. So go ahead for round 5, double crochet all the way around. Here we are at the end of round 5. Go ahead and join to your first double crochet of the round. Chain up 2, and we are going to do bead stitches again. This is going to be the same as this row 4, so we are going to do bead stitches in every other stitch around, starting in that first stitch. So double crochet and then make a puff stitch on the side, chain 1, skip, and work our next bead stitch. So go ahead and complete round 6, and I will meet you back here for the last and final round. Here we are at the end of round 6, join to that first bead stitch. So this is how it should be looking. It's curling up slightly, but if I stretch it out, it is laying flat. So we need one more round of double crochets to complete the circle. So chain 2, and we're just going to crochet all the way around again. This is going to be the last round, and then once you get to the end, we are going to join to that first double crochet, fasten off, and then make your second circle. Again, I already made my first circle, so this is my second circle. So go ahead and complete your first circle, and then make your second circle. And once you get to the end of your second circle, don't fasten off. Just keep the yarn on your hook, and then I will meet you back here and show you how to assemble the purse. Okay, here I am at my last and final round, joining to the first double crochet, and then I'm going to stretch this out to make sure it lays flat. I'm going to take my second circle, and I'm going to put the front sides together. So this is the front side, and I know this is the front side because the back side has this tail from the magic ring. So I'm going to put the front sides together. I'm going to find where I started, and then I'm going to chain 1, and I'm going to crochet these together. So I'm going to insert my hook into this first stitch. You can really start wherever you want. I just like to start where this tail end is, just so it's like on a corner and not around, which really doesn't make a difference. But then I can crochet this tail end in, and then insert my hook into one stitch on the second piece, and I'm going to single crochet them together. And I'm just crocheting over that tail end as well. So just make sure your stitches are lined up, you don't miss any, and then continue to crochet all the way, not all the way around, but all the way around, and then leave an opening. So I left 20 stitches open. So if you want to use stitch markers and kind of map it out ahead of time, you can. And this is sort of like a personal preference. I made it 20 stitches because I was able to fit my hand in there easily with just 20 stitches. If you need it larger, if you want it smaller, go ahead and make the opening as small or as big as you'd like. And then wherever, so I will count 20 stitches, mark it somehow, or I can just go ahead and crochet all the way around, and then be mindful of how many stitches I have left, and then I'm just going to fasten off. So I just finished crocheting around. I left about 20 stitches open, so I can reach my hand in there and put my things in the bag. So this is the outside, so go ahead and just flip it, so then you have the right side facing out. And then you'll notice where you joined, it leaves a little bit of like a 3D effect, so it's not super flat, which is nice because you will fill this with your things anyway. And then all the ends, you can just weave those in, or honestly you can just keep them in here, and then once you line the bag, they'll just kind of be in between the bag and the lining. So I highly recommend lining this bag just because there are pretty large gaps in it. You don't want any of your belongings falling out, especially if you're holding like chapstick or anything small that can get through the holes. So in the next video, I will show you how I line this bag. You're going to want some fabric, scissors, thread, needle, and some pins like this, just so you can pin the fabric in place when we are sewing it onto your piece of crochet. These make it a lot easier to do that. And then the last thing I used is this strap. So this is my first bag I made. This strap I got off of Amazon. I will link it below. It's a crossbody strap. It's adjustable. It's super pretty. It's like a camel color. And these have the clasp hooks. So I just found a sturdy stitch and I just clipped them on. So just make sure when you clip them on, don't clip it to just one piece of thread, because then it's really going to stretch it out. Make sure you grab a hold of a whole stitch to clip it on. I've been wearing this for a few days and it's really sturdy. It hasn't stretched out my work at all. It's pulling a little on this yarn, but it's not affecting the rest of the purse. So here it is lined. As you can see, I used this pink color so it would show up when I did the photo tutorials, but you will want to use, well, this is optional, but I would have originally used maybe a white color so you can't really see it. So try to use a thread that matches the fabric and the crochet piece nicely, just so it's not as apparent unless you do like that look. So I will link this strap below, exactly where I got it, and then watch the next video on how to line your bag.